Okay. Another poem that we're working on this semester is called Digging. And Digging is by an Irish poet named Seamus Heaney. And it was written in 1966. It's on page 463 and 464 in our book. So I'm going to quickly read Digging. It is a longer poem. It's one of the longest poems that we'll have this semester, but the stanzas are fairly short. Between my finger and my thumb, the squat pen rests, snug as a gun. Under my window, a clean rasping sound. When the spade sinks into gravelly ground, my father digging. I look down till his straining rump among the flower beds bends low, comes up 20 years away, stooping in rhythm through potato drills where he was digging. The coarse boot nestled on the lug. The shaft against the inside knee was levered firmly. He rooted out tall tops, buried the bright edge deep to scatter new potatoes that we picked, loving their cool hardness in our hands. By God, the old man could handle a spade, just like his old man. My grandfather cut more turf in a day than any other man on Toner's bog. Once I carried him milk in a bottle corked sloppily with paper. He straightened up to drink it, then fell to right away, nicking and slicing neatly, heaving sods over his shoulder, going down and down for the good turf, digging. The cold smell of potato mold, the squelch and slap of soggy peat, the curt cuts of an edge through living roots awaken in my head. But I've no spade to follow men like them. Between my finger and my thumb, the squat pen rests, I'll dig with it. Now, this is a poem about a father and son relationship. And not only that, but about generational relationships between father, son, and grandfather. Thematically, the poem is about how the speaker, who we can assume is Seamus Heaney himself, is choosing a different profession than his father and grandfather. So the father and grandfather owned a farm and have been digging potatoes, for many years. We could even think that it goes back years from that. Seamus Heaney is from Ireland, and digging potatoes and farming potatoes in Ireland is a normal profession and one that many people hold. What does Seamus Heaney, though, say that he wishes to do with his life? He wishes to write. And he didn't only write poetry. He wrote translations. He wrote essays. He wrote even occasionally short stories. But we know from the echo effect of the end to the very beginning that this is something that he's chosen. He has chosen to pursue writing as a profession rather than farming. He says in the very first stanza, between my finger and my thumb, the squat pen rests, snug as a gun. So the pen is there. Then he immediately goes in the second window into the spade digging and his father digging. The son is situated at his window, the speaker, looking down till his straining rump among the flower beds comes up 20 years away. So metaphorically, this is not literally, but metaphorically, over the 20 years of Seamus Heaney's life that he's talking about, he's watching his father farm potatoes. Where is the son, though? He's sitting inside. He's at his window watching this. Now, we do know later in the poem that the son has helped his father over the years. Certainly, if you're a farmer's child, you're going to help. When he switches in stanza 5 to our, to scatter new potatoes that we picked, loving their cool hardness in our hands. Then, right after that, he brings in his grandfather. So we know, again, that this is a generational profession, one that Seamus Heaney discusses throughout with many different types of images, but one that he will not choose. The last stanza of the poem, this is an 8 stanza poem. So the 8th stanza goes back to the very beginning. Between my finger and my thumb, the squat pen rests. I'll dig with it. So now we know that the digging has referred to potatoes all the way throughout. And he's now choosing to dig. Now, the word dig, of course, we know what the word dig means, but we can think of the various definitions of dig. Digging things like potatoes to pull up out of the earth. Another meaning of dig, though, is to intellectually dig, like to dig through files, to dig through ideas. And he's using dig in these various ways to show us how he's choosing something different, although the digging connects them. Dig juxtaposes both the potatoes and the writing. Imagery is very important, like I just mentioned in this poem. Remember, imagery means all five senses. Imagery doesn't just mean sight. And so we have many examples of imagery in here. We have sound qualities. For instance, we have the clean, rasping sound of the spade. We have squelch and slap near the end. We have nicking and slicing, curt cuts of an edge. Notice that these sound words are also something called onomatopoeia. That's probably a word you heard a long time ago, but just to refresh what that means, it means a word formed by the imitation of a sound associated with that word. So the words squelch, slap, nick, slice, all imitate the sound of nick, slice, slap. Besides sound, there are other images in the poem too. There's a smell image, the cold smell of potato mold. There's texture and touch, loving the cool hardness in our hands, carrying him milk in a bottle. He drank the milk, so the taste of the milk. And certainly sight images are plenty throughout. The straining rump among the flower beds, the coarse boot nestled on the lug and on the shaft, the tall tops. The lug and shaft, by the way, are parts of the spade, and a spade is a shovel. So we're getting all of these different images of what it means to farm potatoes. That is the vast majority of this. Only in essentially 3 stanzas do we get the fact that Seamus Heaney is not choosing this as a profession, that he's chosen something different. Putting all of this together, ultimately, the 2 stanzas, stanza 1 and stanza 8, that are echoes of each other, the idea of dig, the various images throughout, the fact that it is set on a farm, but it's also set indoors with Seamus Heaney looking out. We ultimately want to know, what does all this mean? Why are we reading about this? What is the poem about? The poem is ultimately about respect. The respect that Heaney has for his father and grandfather's profession. He very much admires and honors them for what they've done. And this poem is mainly about his choice and what he thinks he's better at, what he thinks will make him a better person, but he's using this poem as a tool of writing to show how grateful he is to his father and grandfather for showing him what hard work means. There are lots of words throughout that can help us understand how much he honors and respects this profession. For instance, the bright edge of the spade, the cool hardness of the potatoes. By God, the old man could handle a spade. So that by God is just emphasis on how much he respects his father. And that's where he brings his grandfather in, just like his old man. Then, when he says, my grandfather cut more turf in a day than any other man on Toner's Bog. Toner's Bog is the place where they lived, and the bog where they all farmed potatoes. And so his grandfather was well respected in his profession. The cold smell, the curt cuts, through living roots awaken in my head.